Welcome back. This is Pharma Careers, clear role breakdowns, practical skills, and step-by-step career roadmaps.
Hey, welcome. So if you're watching this, I'm going to bet you've typed something like, what are the highest paying jobs in pharma, into a search bar before. We all have, right? It's a totally natural question. But here's the thing. What if I told you that just chasing a list of job titles is, well, kind of the wrong way to go about it? We're about to explore a much smarter way to climb that ladder. Yeah, this is it. This is the question on everyone's mind. We tend to see careers as just a list of titles we need to conquer, one after the other. But honestly, that's not really how the industry works deep down. So instead of just chasing a title, we're going to figure out what truly drives value and, the pay that comes with it. And this quote it nails it perfectly. If you only chase a list, you'll get disappointed. It is so, so true. In the pharma world, the real influence, the real compensation, it's not about what's printed on your business card. It's all about the value you are responsible for. All right, so let's make that shift. Let's move from thinking about titles to thinking about value. What are the core principles that make a role incredibly valuable in the first place? If we can get to the why behind the paycheck, then we can start building a career that actually targets those things on purpose. Okay, so what are these big drivers of value? Well, it pretty much boils down to these four things. And notice, it's not about being a manager or a director. It's about answering questions like, are you the one responsible for high-stakes regulatory risk? The stuff that keeps executives up at night? Do you have a direct line of sight to the company's bottom line? Are your skills so rare they're hard to find? And do you have influence over strategy that impacts whole product pipelines? That's what matters. Let's really zero in on the biggest one here, regulatory risk ownership. Just think about it for a second. In pharma, one single mistake, one compliance failure with an agency like the FDA or the EMA, it can cost a company millions or even billions of dollars. It can just torpedo their reputation. So the people who are directly accountable for making sure that doesn't happen, the ones who truly own that outcome, they get compensated for carrying that weight. Okay, so we've got the principles down, but where do you actually find these high-value roles? Let's take a look at what we'll call the high-impact zones, which is basically where all these drivers really come to life. This table lays it out beautifully. Look, if you're in regulatory strategy, your value is directly tied to preventing those catastrophic failures we talked about. If you're managing a complex clinical trial, you are accountable for its massive, massive complexity and cost. Medical affairs, you're a key player influencing product strategy. Quality leadership, you literally own the company's compliance posture. You see the pattern, right? Every one of these zones connects a huge responsibility directly to how you're compensated. So now we can finally look at a list of roles. But please, don't just see these as job titles. Think of them as containers for all those value drivers we've been talking about. Whether it's medical affairs shaping strategy or pharmacovigilance managing patient risk. These are the kinds of jobs where that high-stakes ownership is literally written into the job description. Now, this is all great in theory, but how do you actually get one of these jobs? Let's talk strategy. Because it's not about trying to jump straight to the top. No, it's about finding the right ladder and then starting your climb. And here's the real secret. You don't just, wake up and apply for these top-tier jobs. You have to find the front door. And that front door is an entry point that, honestly, it might not look that glamorous from the outside, but it's the specific door that puts you on the right path, on the right ladder to start climbing. Let's take a classic example here, the clinical research ladder. The front door is often something like a clinical trial associate role. You're in the trenches, learning the absolute fundamentals of documentation and coordination. That experience then gets you ready to become a CRA, where you're out in the field monitoring clinical sites. And from there, the next logical step is clinical trial manager. Now you own the high-stakes accountability for an entire trial. See, it's a super clear path from execution to ownership. Or what about pharmacovigilance, drug safety? The front door here is usually case processing. It's a super detail-oriented foundational kind of role. Once you master that, you can move up to signal management, where you're not just processing data anymore, you're analyzing it for safety trends. And that experience leads you straight to risk management, where you are making the critical calls that protect patients and the company. Again, it's another clear ladder that leads directly to ownership. So, how do you pick your ladder? Well, it all starts with your natural strengths. You gotta ask yourself, are you a fantastic scientific writer? If so, then your front door might be in medical information, putting you on a path towards medical affairs. Or maybe you're just wired for process and discipline. Then quality assurance could be your ladder to a huge role in compliance leadership. The key isn't just to pick a destination, it's to pick a ladder that you are naturally built to climb. Okay, let's bring this all home. If you remember only one thing from this whole explainer, I want it to be this. This is what I call the ownership principle. And I'm telling you, it is the single biggest difference between a career that stalls out and one that has a massive impact.
So we've kind of established this already, but let's be crystal clear. The ultimate goal here is not a fancy title. It's not about becoming a director of whatever.
The real goal is ownership, pure and simple. Ownership of outcomes, ownership of processes, of risk, of strategy. In the pharmaceutical world, that is the ultimate currency. Now listen to this quote, because it says everything. People who become owners of regulated outcomes get paid. People who remain general assistants stay stuck. I mean, that's the whole game right there. You can either be a participant in a process, or you can be the owner of its outcome. Think about it. Are you just assisting with the paperwork, or are you the single person accountable for that successful submission? That mindset shift, from being an assistant to being an owner, that is absolutely everything. So, I'll leave you with this one question. Forget about the titles for a minute. Think about the ladders. Think about your own strengths. What are you going to own? Which outcome, which high-stakes responsibility are you going to make yours? The answer to that question? That's what's going to define your entire career. Thanks for watching.
If this helped, like and subscribe. Watch the next video in Pharma Careers for the next role breakdown.